57% of Americans have less than 1,000 in savings. And you might also be in the same situation, or you feel that regardless of your efforts, you will never be able to have even $10,000 in your bank account. But here is the good news for you. I have saved more than $300,000 over the last 4 years. And I want to share with you the same system I used so that you can also start to save a lot of money right now. Hi all and welcome to my channel. I am Nico. And firstly, I have a question for you. What do you do when you go for a trip? When you decide you want to go for a trip, you set the destination. And that's why the first step to save money is to set your own goal. Because if you don't know where you are going, you will never be able to reach the destination. And this goal has to be realistic, and this is extremely important. It must have a real reason behind it, a reason that matters to you. And no, being rich, it's not good, because otherwise everyone would have the same motivation and everybody would be rich, would be doing that. You actually need something that stimulates you. It can be going to holidays, it can be buying a house, or also pick the university for your kids. And this is extremely important, because if it has a meaning for you, you will be more keen to work for it and so to achieve it. Then also this objective has to be achievable, because clearly if you're making 50k per year, it will be impossible to save 45. And so set your goal, actually write it down on a paper now, because this will guide you over the whole process. And remember, it's always adaptable. It's your own goal, it's personal. You decide what it has to be, but you must have a goal. And in general, to start, it's better to have a lower goal, because it will be easier to achieve it and it will be more fulfilling rather than failing a super high and difficult objective. This will help you stay motivated over the whole process, because remember, it's always more difficult to start rather than continuing. And so the first goal, if you don't already have it, has to be to build an emergency fund of 6 months of living expenses, because this means that if you lose your job, if you have a car accident or medical expenses that you have to cover, you will be able to do it and you won't have to use debt for it. And as an example, I have more than 1 year of emergency fund, and this way I could just quit my job tomorrow, do whatever I want, and be totally okay with my finances. And so the second thing that you have to do is to analyze your expenses from the last year, and even more years if it is possible for you. Because now you have to understand how you use your money. And you should ask yourself some questions like, is it aligned with your goals? Do you really want to spend so much money on restaurants or subscriptions, for example? I mean, even though I love going to the restaurant with my girlfriend, doing this exercise, we saw that we were spending more than $12,000 per year going to restaurants, which is just a crazy amount of money. And we didn't want to spend that much money on it. And so we started being more careful, and the year after we spent only $5,000. And this means that just by doing that, we saved $7,000, which is already a lot of money with which we can do many other things. So do this exercise, which is extremely important, and it is up to you doing. You have to be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, are these expenses really worth it? Do I really want it? Doing this exercise correctly, it's extremely important for all the next steps. And so in many other financial videos now you would hear about doing a budget, but to be honest, budgets are complex, they don't work. I try to follow them, but they take a lot of time, they're boring. So I switched to a much simpler system, let's call it the simple budget, or more like a guideline, because like this it's much easier to follow it. And here we want to have something super simple, which is always applicable. And it is actually composed of only 3 elements. And the first one, which is the most important, is the 30% rule, which yes, I invented, but which says that you have to pay 30% of your income to yourself. You have to use it for your future. You have to use it for investing, for paying off your debt, and for savings. So in general, as a rule of thumb, I would say that 15% has to go to your savings, whereas the other 15% should go to paying off your debt or to investing. And this is according to your own financial situation. Because if you have a lot of debt, it's probably more worth it to pay off that before starting to invest. And if you want to know more about that, just subscribe to this channel, since it is one of the topics I talked about the most. And so following this 30% rule, whatever happens, you will always be at least saving and or paying off your debt or investing, which in both cases will mean more money for you. And so now to the second element, which is actually the biggest one of this simple budget, which is the fixed expenses you will have every month. And this means the rent, the utilities, groceries, transport, etc. And this should represent between 50 and 60% of your income. And then the final element, actually it is there because we want to make all of this sustainable. We want to have fun while doing all of this, while saving. We want to still enjoy life. And that's why you have a 15% of your income which goes towards guilt-free spending, which means that you just have all of this money, which is actually a lot if you think about it, to do whatever you want. Just use it as you want with no regret. And so finally, in this simple budget, this simple guideline, there is one element that you have to follow absolutely, which is the 30% rule. Because actually, if you can, you should also increase it from 30% to more. For example, I now have 50% of my income which goes towards savings or investment. And so now, yes, okay, you have a simple budget. It should be rather easy, but it might seem complicated. And there is actually one hack that you can use, which is extremely important and actually also extremely easy to make everything simple. And this is to have automatic payments for everything, for your bills, for your debt. And remember that you actually have to pay yourself first. So you firstly have your investments and your savings. They have to directly go to your investment account as well as your savings account. And here a little parenthesis, because for your saving account, you have to find one that pays you a high interest rate, which means above 4%, which is something that you can easily find. And so once you have set up everything automatically, it will become extremely easy to follow the system because you don't even have to think about where your money is going. You don't have to make any effort for it. And so now you really have everything set up for saving. But there's one thing that you can still do to improve it even more, which is cutting expenses. So if you continue to analyze your expenses, if you go in depth of it, you will really find things in which you would like to spend less money or in which you know that you could optimize them if you wanted to. And so these are the things on which you have to work. As an example, for groceries, always look for discounts and also only buy the thing that you really need. That's something that we all do. We go to the shop, we see, oh, this is a nice brand, I would like to try it, and we buy it even if we don't even need it. And actually what I did for that is that I started buying all my groceries online. And this way I just have my list and I buy only that. I'm not distracted by all the things I could find in the shop. Then, are your phone and internet plan correct for your needs? Are you paying maybe too much for it? And also, how many subscriptions do you have? Do you really need to have HBO, Netflix, Prime Video, Disney? And another thing that actually makes a lot of difference, which yes, it won't make you a millionaire, are the little things. I mean, maybe you go every day to take a coffee out at the bar and you pay for it at $3. This means at the end of the year more than $1,000. Again, sure, you're not gonna become a millionaire with that, but if you're saving, if you want to have your first $10,000, that could be a big part of it. And the same can be said for lunch at work. I always bring my lunch from home, and doing that I save more than $2,000 per year. And so summing up all of these things, even just reducing them a little, you will save a lot of money. And another little trick you can use to improve even more your expenses is the 30 days rule, which says that when you want to buy something, you just note it down, you don't buy it, and 30 days after, you see if you still want it and also if you actually need it. Because the objective of this rule is to separate the emotional part of purchasing something from the rational one. We really want to put in evidence the rational one so that we don't make mistakes and we don't just use monies for things that we don't really need. And so all of this is a cycle. It's a cycle that you have to continue using, and it's actually very fast if you think about it, because you just have to check on your goals, how you are doing, and if you maybe have to adapt them. Then you have to analyze your expenses. And this actually you can do it with the frequency you want. Yes, ideally you should do it once per month, but it's better to have a lower frequency than not doing it at all. So do it like once every 3 or 4 months. It's completely fine. The important thing is that you do it, and this way you will see the results of all you're doing. And while doing that, actually you will also be checking on your simple budget, on the simple guidelines we defined before. And all of this will be extremely simple because you will have set up automatic payments that will automatically distribute all your income in the different buckets that you have to follow. And then finally, cut your expenses. There are many ways to do it. Be creative. Do it according to your own goals. Do what you need so that you will be happy with your finances. You'll easily be able to save money, to have this $10,000 and to have even more before you even know it. But if you really want to improve your finances, this is not enough. There is something else you have to do. And if you want to know it, watch this video. Thank you for watching and see you soon.